Hello, everybody. This is Nick Majors, and I'm live on YouTube, and we'll see what goes on. I'm pretty new to this YouTube content. I've played around a little bit with live sessions on Facebook, but really not on YouTube. So I have no idea. Are we going to have one person, two people, 20 people, nobody? Just don't know. But we'll see where this goes to. I just wanted to give it a try, and it's a nice way to create some content, and I can cut it into shorts later on. So here we are. It's been a pretty interesting week. Last weekend, I posted an AMA, Ask Me Anything, to Reddit. And basically, told people, hey, listen, I sold my business for $14 million and I spent it all and really don't have any of it left. The reaction that I got was really quite phenomenal. Some 8.8 million, almost 9 million views, 2,600 comments. And there was more than a little bit of hating. Okay. I mean, there were a few people who were, what a selfish, greedy, self-centered person you are. People are starving to death in the world, and there you are wasting money on your life. And okay, they had their views. But what surprised me was that it was like 85% upvotes. The vast majority of people who voted up or down on the post were supportive of me and what I had done, or at least accepting of it and understanding of it. So I wanted to come on and talk about it, talk about some of the things that came up during that session. So I want to say a few things along the way here. First of all, what do you say to a guy, any of it left, and doesn't have any of it left now? Well, I'm not saying to you that that's what you should do. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. It's what I did, and I had my reasons. I was not a lottery winner, although I did spend money like a lottery winner. I didn't do it unknowingly. There were certain circumstances that hit me at the time I sold the business and a way I wanted to live my life. I set out to do that, and I did it. So I'm going to talk about some of those things with you today. Now, by the way, I'm set up here. I'm using some software I've never worked with before. So you're going to see me adjusting some controls and moving around a bit. For your setup, I've got a monitor here in front of me. I got one to the left. I got one to the right. So I'll be looking at different screens at different times to see different aspects of it. I do this all myself. I do the camera work, do the lighting, write the scripts, edit the videos. This is a one-man show. I know a lot of the influencers out there, as they get bigger, have teams and people who work with them. No, this is me. I make this sitting here at my desk and putting it together and hoping that you enjoy it and hoping you get something out of it. So who the heck do I think I am giving people advice about life, when to some people at least I've made a complete mess out of mine? Well, I don't think I have. First of all, I do this content to help people, to share my experiences with them, to let them know who I am and let them know what I've done, and maybe they can get something out of it. I'm going to take a minute and share a short clip with you. It's only 2 or 3 minutes, but it gives you some background that I think, and it makes some important points I'd like to share with you before we get started today. So let's see if I can find that properly here and play that for you. Here we go. There you go. So I'll be right back in a minute. I want to just take a few minutes and have a word one-on-one with some of you and talk a little bit about what I'm doing here and what I hope you're getting out of it. Before I get started, I want to acknowledge something that is important. We all have problems in life. We all have challenges. We all have things that are going wrong, and we're looking for answers and solutions. Unfortunately, I know that there are some people in this world who have things much worse than we do. There are people out there who are dying of diseases, who have pain that's just unimaginable, who just had a child or a close family member pass away or is on the verge of passing away. People who live in the Gaza Strip, people who live in the Ukraine. People who have such abject poverty, they literally can't have any food on the table. And they're afraid for their future. They don't know what to do. I have nothing for those people. I can't help them. I can't save their life. I can't do anything. All I can do is send them all my best with a sincere hope that they find a way to survive, and to tell them I do believe there's a light at the end of the tunnel and I think you'll get there. Please look after yourself and please do what you can to get there. This video content I'm making for other people, for the rest of us. Those who face the daily challenges that just set us back and keep us from living our life to its full potential. I'm making these videos and this content for you. Trying to share some wisdom, some ideas, some thoughts, inspiration, motivation. Sharing the experience I've had in my life. Showing you that there's always different routes you can take. And maybe it'll catch, maybe it'll mean something to you. I hope it does. Look, I'm not asking you for anything. Oh, yeah, I do want you to subscribe to this channel. And if you get a chance, go to Ghost Cartel and subscribe there too. But I'm not one of the fake gurus out there. I don't have a course to offer you. I don't want you to send me money. I don't want you to come to a meeting. I just want you to think about what you're doing, listen to things I have to suggest and say, maybe take a different perspective on life. If you do, I promise you'll be able to change your life. Because I can't do that for you. Only you can change your life. But I'm here, and I'm glad to give you anything I can in thoughts and ideas and inspiration. And I just hope you go ahead, have yourself a great weekend. And once again, thanks for being here, and please come back. I'm going to be running a number of live sessions starting next week. I'm just going to come on and give you a chance to ask me questions. So let's see where that goes to. And here I am back again. So, as I said, I'm here to help you, but I know that I can't help the world. I can't even help you. You got to help yourself. But I think that I've got things to say to you that can help you put things into the proper perspective. So, in that AMA, I posted all kinds of comments, 2,600 of them. The areas that most people wanted to know about were the obvious. Why didn't I just invest in the S&P or some income fund? With 4 or 5% a year, I could get $500,000 per year and live the rest of my life and never need money again. Why didn't I do that? Second big area was my drug background. I know that some of you know, I don't know if everybody does, but I was involved as a drug pilot for Pablo Escobar in the 1980s. And I went through most of that period in the 90s and 2000 with a warrant outstanding for my arrest. People wanted to know about that and had a lot of questions about it. They wanted to know about my gambling and day trading. I did a lot of investing and day trading. I basically won and lost millions of dollars, ended up losing. What was the impact of that? What did I do? How did that work? They wanted to know about dating, my wife, my girlfriends, because I got divorced shortly after that. I was quite a successful sugar daddy, got involved in the world of sugar daddy world. People wanted to know about that. Racing, of all the expenses I had, drugs aren't my thing. Shortly after I sold the business, I went out the Dodge Viper competition coupe, and I spent 3 years racing that and basically set up a team, and it was costing me in the range of $50,000 a month, like $500,000 a year. So a lot of questions about that, both from fans and from critics at the same time. A lot of people want to know, what did you buy? If you get rich like that, what do you go out and buy? What do you spend your money on? What do you do? They want to know. Okay. What's it like building a business? What kind of sense of accomplishment do you get? When you finally sell that business for $14 million, what does that feel like? Another big point people kept raising over and over again was regrets. If you could do it over again, would you change anything the way you did it? Was this really your intention to spend all your money and be, so to speak, broke at age 70? So And pension. I'm now living off a pension. There's enough to live off of. How are you going to get by? A lot of the critics were saying, how dare you spend all that money and now you're just living off the hardworking people and leeching off government and leeching off social programs. Well, it's not that simple, okay? Look, I'm living off right now a Canada pension plan. I'm in Canada, by the way, and I have a Canada pension plan that I contributed to since I was 18 years old. Also, when I sold my business, I paid about $3 million in cap gains taxes. Plus, I spent an entire lifetime paying income taxes. So trust me, okay, having a $2,000 pension for the next 10 to 15 years is not me taking advantage and leeching off the system. I don't believe so. Also, as far as being selfish and greedy, I've helped a lot more people than I've hurt in my life by far. And we'll talk about that. So those are some of the ideas that people asked about, and I'm going to address some of them and go over what went on. First of all, let's look at the sale of the business. I came back to Canada in the early 1990s, kind of broke and penniless. Started up the data recovery business because I had a computer background and found myself quite gifted technically with computer hardware. Company grew really well, and it ended up 15 years later in 2005. We came to the attention of Seagate Technologies, the largest hard disk drive manufacturer in the world, and they wanted to buy the company. So in May of 2005, called me up, and we then went through 6 months of what you call due diligence, where people come in and examine every aspect of the business, your sales, your customers, your branches, your security system, your computer system, making sure that the company is as you presented it and that you're not defrauding them. Once before they close the deal, they would do that. And it's just a day in and day out process for 6 months. So it was quite a tiring process we went through. I learned a few lessons then, the state of mind. Seagate and most corporations operate with a philosophy in business of dog eat dog. I, on the other hand, have always operated with an opposite philosophy that I call win-win. Win-win means that if you're making a deal with someone, you're giving them something they want and they're giving you something you want. And when you walk away, you're both happy or you're both better off for the transaction. Dog eat dog, on the other hand, seems to be anything I can get out of you is to my benefit. So the more harm I can do to you, the more I can squeeze out of you, the better it is, the less I can get away with. Corporations, I found, are dealing on that dog eat dog basis. And this whole 6 months was based on that. We had some horrible experiences as we went through that. But in the end, it got there and it did get done. Although we did have a real roadblock just before the deal closed, it almost fell apart because it started to show, or it came up, that I couldn't travel to the United States because I had this warrant out for my arrest. So anyway, I have a short clip. I'm working on my life story. It's a book that I'm calling Me, Mike, and Pablo. And the opening of the book talks about a phone call I had with the vice president of Seagate a week before the deal closed. I'm going to play that for you now to set the context of what was going on in November 2005, right as I sold the business. So let's see what we got here then. There you go. Here.
Nick Majors leaned back in his leather chair, phone pressed to his ear. The voice on the other end belonged to Sue Williams, a vice president from Seagate Technologies, the world's largest manufacturer of hard disk drives. Nick owned a successful computer services company which had caught Seagate's attention, and they'd offered to buy it from him for a staggering $14 million. Despite months of demanding negotiations and extensive due diligence, progress toward an actual closing date for the acquisition had recently stalled. The vice president's tone was urgent.
Nick, we need to speed things up and finalize this deal. Can you hop a flight to come down and meet with me and my acquisitions team in person? We're hoping to wrap this all up before month end.
Nick glanced out of his office window, the bustling streets of Toronto stretching before him. Seagate was in California, a world away. He knew the stakes were high, but there was something they didn't know, something he'd kept hidden for years. An outstanding American arrest warrant loomed over him, an invisible specter that had been haunting him for 17 long years. Few ever suspected that Nick Majors faced serious drug smuggling charges from a past he had tried to bury, and international travel meant risking his arrest. With the Seagate deal hanging in the balance, echoes of his former life threatened to derail his future. Though 5 of his company's 7 branches were located in the U.S., Nick was banned from entering the United States and had managed to build his Toronto-based business without ever personally leaving Canada. His staff did all the traveling.
Unfortunately,
Nick replied.
I'm not able to travel to the U.S.
What?
Sue Williams exclaimed. Her surprise was palpable. Nick hesitated, choosing his words carefully.
Well, I've had previous immigration problems and can't legally enter the States.
Silence hung in the air, heavy and laden with consequences. The vice president's voice returned, colder this time.
I'll get back to you,
she said, and the call ended abruptly. Nick stared at the phone, wondering if he had just sealed the fate of this deal and possibly even jeopardized his entire business. The dark secrets he'd hidden so well were now entwined with his destiny. As the sun dipped below the Toronto skyline, Nick realized that unseen shadows could lead to his undoing or propel him to unimaginable heights. After decades of concealment, Nick's unrevealed past had converged with his present world.
As I said, that's the first chapter of the book I'm writing of my life story. I'm doing a lot of the work and research right here as I create this content, so it kind of interacts between it. So here I am putting together the deal of my lifetime. After building this company for about 15 years, I've got this big deal on the line, and suddenly Seagate wants me to fly down to California, and they don't realize I can't travel. Fortunately, that blew over. Why, I don't know, but they called me back a day later, said to me, Nick, we need to know this. Is there anything that's going to blow back on Seagate that's going to cause us complications in the future? I stopped. I said to them, no. All the money's clean. There's no ties to anything. There are no issues. And they said, okay, let's do it. And a week later, we closed the deal. There I am, $14 million. Now, a couple of things you got to understand. When you close a deal like that for $14 million, you're not getting $14 million. Like, I wish, okay? But I want to give you some idea of what that money was and what I actually ended up with and how that worked, okay? So let's just have a quick look at this here then. Okay, so out of the $14 million, you start with $14 million. I paid $3 million in income tax right off the top. So that takes you down to $11 million. I got divorced within a month of selling the business. I got divorced and ended up basically paying a $2 million divorce settlement to my wife. Gets me down to $9 million. I then spent about $1 million on family and friends, a couple of charities, individuals who needed help. And I gave some very large employee bonuses to senior staff members who helped me build up the company. That was basically about $1 million. So by the time that's all done, that 14 million is down to about 8. So that's the amount of money that we're really dealing with that was spent over 20 years. And where I spent it, I'll get to it. And bottom line, though, is I had some very expensive habits. Motorsports. I was spending $50,000 a month, $500,000 a year on motorsports. Day trading. Like I said before, I made and lost millions, tens of millions, but in the end, about 2.5 million I lost day trading. The world of sugar daddies and sugar dating, social life, probably spent a good $500,000 on that. Um, in the long run, over time, they ended up losing money, and I lost about $500,000 through that. So I'll get into more in-depth stuff about what I did and where those things went to. But for now, let's just leave that there. Okay. Um, Going back to the deal, the state of mind. When that deal closed on November 5th, I was a pretty happy camper. I'd gotten out alive. All right. I had built up this company and I was just handed this amount of money and my life was set. I'd come out on top. And believe me, when I was sitting in a jail cell in 1987, this was not how I imagined my life going. We'd been through this whole process, this nightmarish 6 month process of due diligence that was threatening the deal all the time. Seagate was very suspicious and very challenging in everything. Turned out everything was above board and the company was exactly as I said it would be. And the deal went through without a hook. But there was a few things that there was a name in my mind that kind of was a backdrop to a lot of this deal. And I want to share that with you if I may. Okay. Bear with me as I figure this one out. Sorry, bear with me for a second. My apologies. There's a gentleman by the name of Dennis Barnhart, who I had known about in the 1980s. And I'll give you a bit of history here. I'll try to make sense of this, of why this matters. In the 1980s, computers were very new. Okay. Personal computers, home computers. Okay. They were pretty new. And there was a company called Eagle Computer Company that blew on the scene in 1981, 82. And they were the inventors were booming all over, and computers were, you know, all the thing. The company succeeded beyond their wildest dreams, and they actually went public in 1983. Unfortunately, on the day that they went public, something happened, and I want to share that with you because I learned that in 1983. Sitting there in 2005 with this deal closing, I remembered this here. On June 8th, 1983, the day Eagle's initial public offering made him a multimillionaire, the president and CEO, Dennis Barnhart, died in the crash of a Ferrari he was test driving. Ronald McElwee became president. Because of death, the underwriters reversed the IPO, refunding the money that investors had paid for the stock, held another one a few months later. So think about that. A man's entire life had worked out. He's gone public. He's become a multimillionaire and he's driving a Ferrari. And 3 hours after they closed the deal, he died in a car crash. Somehow I kept thinking to myself, the minute that car was about to hit the guardrails and he knew he was going to die, what was he thinking? I couldn't think of anything more tragic than somebody who works for a lifetime to accomplish something and boom, in the blink of an eye, it's gone. And they never get to enjoy the fruits of their labor. Um, since that time, I've got so many friends of mine. As you age, you'll get more and more of this passing away and dying. People who, whether they saved for their retirement or didn't, they passed away, in many cases younger than me. And yeah, it's kind of sad. Having a little bit of internet problems here. My connection's breaking up a little bit. Please bear with me. The connection's going. Hi, I apologize again. My internet connection in my home is going in and out and is quite erratic right now. I'm going to do a quick sign off and try to resolve the issue. Try to get back to you as soon as I can. If not, I will reschedule it. I'm really sorry about that, but we live in a world and that's kind of where it is. Thanks, and I will get back to you shortly. Thanks.